Welcome back for lesson 2. If you missed the first lesson, check out the link below. You can also get all the rest of the lessons there. And also I have the link for the sheet music. Support the Gordon Duncan Memorial Trust. Support young musicians in Scotland staying and getting into bagpipe music. Get your music there and join me for the workshop. So let me play for you the first line here, and then we'll break down that second bar or third bar as well of music. So that's the first line. Now here's the little chunk we're working on in lesson 2. So that's the little bit we're going to work on here in lesson 2. So we ended off lesson 1 on an E. So we ended off on that E. From that E, we're going to do a G grace note. Even if you're not doing embellishments, you can do a big fat G grace note with that top finger up and down. Even if you don't do embellishments, we're not moving to any other note. We're just staying on the E, so I know you can do that one. So it's just that G grace note, and then we're doing 2 quick notes up the scale. So we're on the E, we go up to the F, raise up that middle finger, and again that's after you've done the G grace note, then go up to the F. And then from there, lift up that top finger, and now you're on the G. And from here, we're going to do, again, we're not transitioning anywhere, so you can get this grace note. Just the thumb on the back of the chanter is going to come off and come back on again, while we're staying on that high G. So that's all it is, that thumb coming on and off. Then you hear that little high A or grace note while we're on the high G, high A grace note. So maybe just let's do that a couple more times, a little bit slower. And let's add that on to that first bar of music. And a little bit quicker, then we can move on. So after that high G, we do the grace note on the high G. Then we're going to drop down to the F, just drop down one finger. And then we have 2 Fs in a row. Now you have a choice here. You could separate them with a G grace note. It's not in the sheet music, you might have to write that in. So we've dropped down to the F, and then we go up and down. That's our G grace note, separating those 2 Fs. We're in bar 2 of line 1 in the sheet music. The other option is you could tie those 2 Fs together. So rather than doing that G grace note, you could just play a little bit longer of an F. In that case, you could do a little line over top of the 2 notes to tie them together. Neither is written in the sheet music, so I'm assuming you can interpret it to how you like it. So I'm going to play, just to help you with timing, I'm going to play a G grace note in between those 2 Fs. So with that G grace note in between the 2 Fs, this is what we have so far. after that grace note on the F, up and down with the top finger, we're going to drop down one more finger, and now we'll be on the E. So let's add that in to what we have so far. And from there, we're going to drop down to the C. Now you can do a G grace note here, totally optional. If the G grace note with that note transition is too much, don't worry about this one. If you want to just break down that note transition with me for a moment here, what's happening to go from E down to C? Ring finger of the top hand drops down, pinky finger of the bottom hand drops down as well, middle two fingers on that bottom hand are coming up. If you'd like to do that G grace note, top finger has to lift, then you go ahead and do your note transition, then the top finger comes down. So that's that note transition with the G grace note. So let me play what we have so far right up to that C. Did you get that last little bit? From that C, we're going to go up to the D just by lifting up one finger. Pretty easy transition there. From that D, we're going to go up to the E. Now you can do a doubling here if you wish. If you're not doing the doubling, D to E. Ring finger has to lift at the same time. Pinky finger's lifting on the bottom hand. And that bottom hand, all the other fingers are coming down. So you're into that low A position on the bottom hand. So let me play that, but this time with the doubling. And let's break down that doubling, then I'll play what we have so far. So from D to E with the doubling. First part of the doubling, we're doing a G grace note up to that E. So that top finger lifts to start the whole thing. Then we do our note transition before that top finger comes back down again. And we're just doing that once. That's the first half of the doubling. Second half of the doubling, middle finger is going up and down. And again, just once. So that's our second half of the doubling. If we put both halves together, and if we tighten it up to get it to sound like one movement, but still we hear two distinct grace notes. So the first grace note completes before that second grace note happens. So let me play what we have so far right up to that doubling. And that's the last little bit of the lesson. As you heard, even if you don't do that doubling, you can do this one to separate the two E's. Just a strike with that ring finger of the top hand. So a grace note is an up and down movement. A strike is the opposite. It's a down and up movement. But you don't want to hang around on that hole too long. We don't really want that. We want just down and right up again. I like to think of it as my finger bouncing off the chanter. But just don't go so fast that you miss the hole completely and then you don't hear that strike sound. And it can take some practice, but you'll get there. So that's all we're ending off on, is that strike. So let me play once more the lesson 1 chunk with this lesson 2 chunk. Lesson 2, we went through bar 2 and then into bar 3 of line 1, the first E and then the second E after that strike with our ring fingers. So we didn't quite get through all bar 3, but almost to the end of bar 3. We didn't do those last 2 notes in bar 3. So just to make sure you can follow along in the sheet music, which hopefully you've gotten at the Gordon Duncan Memorial Trust site, the links below, as well as the link for the workshops below. I hope to see you in the other lessons of the sleeping tune. So again, without further ado, well, one more further ado. Like, subscribe to the channel, like, comment below if you enjoy the sleeping tune. If there's other tunes you want to see and get bagpipe ready, let me know in the comments below. And until I see you in lesson 3, here's line 1.